All right, you ready?
Yes, ready.
Okay, here we go. Paradox of Sports, episode 37. Jack, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing okay. The girls got done. Hockey's over, so stuff is starting to loosen up a bit up here. I'm going to help with our Pee-wees have a state tournament this weekend, so I'm going to announce that a little bit. The junior game has a couple of games. I'll do those. So, excuse me.
Quick, two big headlines in the sports world.
For what?
Tiger Woods' career may have ended.
I think you might be correct. Luckily he's not dead. But what was the other one?
The Big Show is signed with AEW.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that one. The Tiger one, I'll get your take a little bit on, but the Big Show one, we're going to follow up with that after we do the interview, after we play the interview that we have tonight. So before we get into the interview stuff, I want to know how baseball's been going.
It's been going fine. We've been doing our practices a lot. We had back-to-back practices because it was so nice out.
Nice. Now, I know, just looking at some stuff that was shared, the Thunderwolves baseball has started. Is that something, are they letting fans go to those yet? Or is that something you can't go to?
I don't know.
I'm going to bet you can't go, or you guys would have already been going. So that's just, which sucks, is that's just the way it is.
Okay.
So I guess we can talk a little before we throw it to the kicker. Tell me, where is Tiger Woods, like on Jack Sentner's radar? Like, what is Tiger Woods in your mind, and kind of like, where is he in the sports world to you?
Tiger Woods is greatest golf player in the 21st century.
Okay, so greatest golfer ever.
In the 21st century.
Okay, so 21st century, greatest golfer in the 21st century. And I mean, at your age and kind of the stuff you've been exposed to, you probably haven't been as up to date on all the drama and stuff he went through. I think that was 5 or 6 years ago, because hell, you'd have been like 6. So you know him off of the Tiger Woods, the golfer. Do you play the Tiger Woods, the video game?
There's a Tiger Woods video game?
Oh, yeah, dude. He's like, the Tiger Woods golf is huge. So
I've only played one golf video game, and it's like this Japanese game called Everybody's Golf.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Well, then that's the different demographics on kind of what people have and what they do. Yeah, Tiger Woods golf was, I mean, I think that even goes back to maybe when I was in high school, college. That was a big deal. So he transcended. He is the game of golf, definitely. So like I said, I'm glad he's okay. I don't know if he'll ever play golf again in front of anybody, but we'll see, man. Don't speed, Jack. Let that be a lesson to you. Don't screw around in your car. So wear your seatbelt.
Was he screwing around in his
car?
He
was speeding. He was speeding. And then the press conference yesterday, that first deputy on scene made it very clear that had he not had a seatbelt on, it would have killed him. So that's, wear your seatbelt and don't speed. So, okay. So should we get into our guest?
Yes, get into our guest.
Okay. Before we get into
Nick Lowery, right?
Yeah, it's Nick Lowery tonight. But before we get in that interview, we need to talk about Roadhouse Cinemas. There is one in Colorado Springs, and they would like to invite you to an unparalleled movie and dining experience. It's open 365 days a year, and it offers an extraordinary restaurant menu created by an award-winning chef and restaurateur, an impressively creative full bar, which, okay, back in the day, you had to sneak booze into the theater. It sounds like they've cut that part out, and now you can go and watch your movie and not feel guilty. So you'll experience that when you get a little bit older. They have high quality wines and craft beers and overwhelmingly comfortable heated recliners, all to be enjoyed while experiencing state-of-the-art digital projection and 7.1 Dolby digital surround sound. That sounds like we're going to have to get down there and watch a movie. Once stuff opens up, we'll come down, we'll go do a movie night down there. How does that sound?
Okay, hold on. Where are you getting this stuff?
I do my research, man. I do my research and look it up. Actually, it's off their Facebook page.
That just sounds way too good to be true.
Did that not sound like a professional ad read right there?
That actually did sound like a really
very good,
a really good ad read.
Okay, so
although it does sound too good to be true.
You know what? I kind of thought the same thing, because if you're talking beer, a heated seat, I'm going to assume chicken wings or something you can get from the menu, and a big screen 7.1. I don't even know where the 7 comes from. Everything I've dealt with is 5.1. So 7.1 sounds pretty cool. So it says here next door is the Rail Yard Gaming and Gastropub, which features bowling, cornhole, ping pong, shuffleboard, and arcade games. And again, a full bar. We're gonna have to go. We will have to go check this place out. So that it's Roadhouse Cinemas. Roadhouse Cinemas. What's that?
And then the Rail Yard thing sounds even better.
Like it sounds like you could do like a rail yard, Roadhouse rail yard, like pre-game, game, post-game kind of situation.
Wait, are they gonna at the Roadhouse, or are they gonna show games?
Oh, that would be cool if they did. I think it's just movies, but we'll have to ask that question. Maybe we go to the Roadhouse and watch the Super Bowl.
That's a very good idea.
That would be cool.
Here, real quick, I'm going to find some stuff that could be... Here, well, let's get to our interview.
Okay.
And then meanwhile, I'll find some stuff while...
Okay, beautiful. So that's Roadhouse Cinemas, 3030 North Nevada in the Springs. They helped set this whole thing up. Yourself and the executive producer handled the interview duties. So let's get to our interview with the guy that is just a stud, man, Nick Lowery.
I wish I was able to pull up like a drum roll thing that I could pull up on the computer, but I'm just gonna do it myself.
Okay.
Introducing Kansas City Chiefs all-time leading scorer, which in that case most of them are kickers. Introducing kicker for the Chiefs, former kicker for the Chiefs, Nick Lowery.
All right, welcome back to the Paradox of Sports. Everybody in Broncos country is probably wondering, why is there a Kansas City Chiefs logo behind me? But we have a very special guest who's going to talk about some of his career highlights, the Kansas City Chiefs and the last couple Super Bowls, and some of the great work he's doing for his community. Former NFL kicker, All-Pro, Hall of Famer for the Kansas City Chiefs, Ring of Honor, Mr. Nick Lowery. Nick, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on the Paradox of Sports.
Thanks, Matt. And by the way, it may have been Bronco country, but I think Kansas City may have taken over a little bit of Bronco country in the last couple of years. Just saying, because of a guy named number 15, Patrick Mahomes.
Well, there's no question. We didn't jump on the bandwagon. We've been Mahomes fans in this household since the Red Raider days. So to our guy, Pat, guns up, buddy. So take it away, Jack.
You grew up in Germany. What got you into football?
I did not grow up in Germany. I was born in Germany, Jack. My dad was in the State Department, and so I was there for the first 9 months of my life, and then came back. My dad was very senior CIA. I mean, very senior. So till I was 9 years old, I was in McLean, Virginia, and Bethesda, Maryland. We moved to McLean, Virginia when I was 6. And then when I was 9, my dad was stationed in London. So we lived in London, and I played soccer all the time, played a little bit of rugby, some cricket, but soccer was my sport. And that's back when, so long ago, Jack, way before you were born, that England won the World Cup. And I discovered I could kick really well. And then we went to Germany. So I did live in Germany when I was 11, 12, 13. And that gave me a chance to, develop as an athlete. And then came back when I was 13, and in 8th grade, I started kicking a ball off a tee in football, and it just seemed easy. And from that point on, Jack, the rest of my life was that combination, which I love as a pitcher in baseball, which I also was in college, but also as a kicker, is learning not only the physical training to be strong, flexible, balanced, precise, a good athlete, but most importantly, as with everything in life, how do I control my mind to deal with the pressure, the unique pressure of being a kicker, where in 1.25 seconds, the ball is snapped back almost 25 feet, caught, put down, and kicked through a tiny pair of tweezers called goalposts in front of 80,000 people and 11 very large people who want to kill me just about 20 feet away.
When did you ever learn to kick with your foot 2.2 inches above the bottom of the football?
I never measured it to 2.2, but it was more about getting that feel like a golfer, the perfect stroke. So I'm not sure if it was 2.2. I'm 6'4", and the part of my foot might have been different than other people. For instance, some people would be straight on. Most people are soccer style now. Almost everybody is. Some people kick more like that with their foot coming through like that. Being taller, I was more like a pendulum, but I would hit on this part of my foot. And I'm not going to get up from the desk to show you exactly, but figuring out that part and where it connects with the football. But if you want to get to the science of it, here's some science for you. The ball is actually connected to the foot. The actual foot comes through the ball for 4 thousandths of a second. 4 thousandths of a second. So it can be daunting because you think if I don't get it right then, it doesn't matter what I did in practice. That's why you've got to really have discipline to make practice, intense, not too crazy, but intense like the game. And then trust your practice, trust your discipline, just like you are right now interviewing me, even though you're 11 years old, see how well you're doing it.
Mm-hmm. I learned to kick I'm not the best. I quit playing soccer when I was 4. But I learned where to kick the ball.
You quit playing soccer when you were 4. It kind of sounds like, pro athletes saying, I quit playing soccer when I was 40. You had your long career, Jack, and then at 4 you said, I'm hanging up my cleats. I love it.
Yeah. I learned it from Matt Prater on a YouTube video when he was up against a robot.
I saw that.
That was kicking 100-yard field goals.
Yep, I saw that tape yesterday. Yeah. So what's your question?
You started your career with the Patriots. What was it like playing pro football for the first time?
Well, I had gone to an Ivy League school, and I had a good career. I was all New England and all Ivy League for 2 years, but I was not all American, and I had a fantastic junior season. I had a pretty mediocre senior season, but I was still on the radar of some people. And really what I'm most proud of, Jack, is that when you confront your dreams, as I was doing, I realized I had to learn to overcome the fear, not only the fear of failure, but the fear of success. But the fear of failure is the first one, because if you get cut, you think maybe that's the end of my dream. And the Jets cut me after I had a bad game against the San Diego Chargers in the 3rd preseason game. And a few days later, I thought, you know what? I've just got to keep doing this till I'm used to it. I've got to keep doing it till I'm used to it, because being a kicker, you don't get 15, 30, 50 plays in preseason. You get 1 or 2 or 3. And so I just knew I had to keep putting myself out there. So then I went and I literally showed up at the Patriots stadium because their kicker was hurt, John Smith. And I just said, I think I'm better than the guys you brought in. And Chuck Fairbanks, the coach, in the fading light at then Schaefer Stadium, which is where, the same general area where the new stadium is. and I kicked the lights out, and they kept me at the Red Fox Inn on Route 1 in Foxborough. And after the next game, they signed me, and I was terrified. And my first game, just to add to that, was on national TV in Oakland, the first Sunday night primetime game ever, with the Monday night crew of Don Meredith, Don Meredith and Howard Cosell, and the running back from the Giants,
Frank Gifford.
And I was terrified. I remember the coach saying to me, just be yourself, which was great advice, except early in that pursuit of your dreams, Jack, you don't know who you are necessarily. And so I was terrified, but I just put myself out there. And luckily, Steve Grogan ran with about 40 seconds left down to the 2-yard line, and I got to kick an extra point rather than a long field goal. And we won that game. And then we went to San Diego, actually back to New England, and played San Diego. And I just was still terrified. And they cut me again. Then I thought it must really be over. But the same thing happened. A little voice inside me said, no, you just got to keep going till you get used to it. You're not even at that place where you're used to it. And so that process made me realize no one can know what's inside me, Jack, except me. No one can know what level I'm willing to dig down to and push myself except me. And so what began to happen was I began to notice in between 11 rejections by 8 NFL teams until I made it with my 9th team, I began to notice I was just getting better, more confident, stronger, mentally stronger, physically stronger, spiritually more excited about the process, not willing to give up. And that's what I'm most proud of, is that I literally, Jack, gave up a job, a great job, working with 11 attorneys as a legislative aide for Senator Bob Packwood of Oregon on the Senate Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee to try one last time with the Kansas City Chiefs. They gave me a $2,500 bonus, and money isn't everything, but that was a tiny amount compared to today. But for me, it was one last sign to try one more time. And then I played 18 years and broke every one of Jan Stenerud's records. I had to beat out the greatest kicker in the history of the game. But in 2 years, I'd gone from being terrified against the Patriots and terrified in the games to just knowing I'd paid my dues and I was ready. So it's all about focus, character, hard work, and persistence in whatever you do, and not stopping when you make it, continuing to work and work and work and loving the process. So I have a feeling if you stick with it, starting at 11 years of age, thanks to maybe your dad helping a little bit getting started, but I have a feeling a couple of years from now, as good as you are now, you're going to be even better.
You finished your career with the Jets. What were some of the takeaways from your career?
Well, we're missing my whole career with the Chiefs, but 14 years with the Chiefs and an all-time leading scorer, most accurate kicker in NFL history when I left. And I went to the Jets, and if I had to do it over again, it was the first year of free agency, Jack, in 1994. And there is just, I think, a lot of miscommunication between the Chiefs general manager and head coach, Marty Schottenheimer, who just passed away, by the way, and was the best coach I ever had. And if I had to do it over again, I would have stayed. I think a lot of players today will leave for a little bit more money, and they are making the mistake of leaving for a little money, but leaving the situation where they're appreciated and where they're successful. And that's what happened. I went to New York, and we had a great coach the first year in Pete Carroll. I was on David Letterman not once, but twice. I won the U.S. Open Celebrity Tennis Championship. I had some fun things. And we were a good team, and then we collapsed at the end of that first year of Pete Carroll as our coach, who's now, as you know, a great coach and very possibly Hall of Fame coach. And they fired him. And suddenly all of that good energy from leaving the Chiefs and going to a team that really wanted me there was gone. It was tough. It was very tough. We had the worst record in the NFL, my second to last, and last year in the NFL. It was character building. So what I tell people is, life has a script that you write yourself, but not all of it. And there will always be parts of that script that you have no control over, but just make sure you surround yourself with good people that appreciate you and who you bring out the best in as well.
And it's pretty phenomenal that you stuck with one team for that long in Kansas City, especially at the kicker positions, because a lot of these kickers, like you mentioned, with free agency bouncing around, solid kickers, all pro kickers, and they're here 4 or 5 years. Go to another team, go to another one, but 14 years, you don't hear that often.
No.
So that's very commendable.
I look at it not only as being part of a lot of different teams, a lot of up and down teams in the 80s, but then Marty Schottenheimer coming and being part of a real winner and seeing Arrowhead filled up and playing in games that really mattered. And even though I already was the most accurate kicker in NFL history, starting halfway through my 4th year in the league in 1984, at least with the Chiefs, by 1989, we had a real team. And by 1990, we were filling up Arrowhead Stadium. And suddenly I was getting voted to the Pro Bowl when I should have been voted before, but we just weren't taken seriously as a team. So a really powerful lesson in that is that when you are part of a great team, all the good things happen. Focusing on that. Individual accolades are great, but it was so much more satisfying to be part of a great team.
After your playing career, you're currently a keynote speaker. What got you into keynote speaking?
Jim Schaff, who was our general manager back then in 1980 until 88, he said, Nick, you're pretty good at speaking. You should probably think about that. So I started to just look for those opportunities. I spoke in front of 3,000 Eagle Scouts at the Mormon Tabernacle in Independence, Missouri, back when I was, I think, 26. And I began to do more of that. One nice thing about being an athlete is you speak to every kind of group. And I had a good message. It was about never giving up. It was about learning to focus on what matters most. It was about being part of a great team, even as an individual. It was about hard work. And it was about giving back. I began to do more and more work in contributing to the community in Kansas City with honoring my Aunt Margaret, who had cerebral palsy. And we had a program called Kick with Nick, which ended up winning the national award. We raised $1 million for United Cerebral Palsy. And we would, every week during the season, we'd honor a young person that was making the best of their lives, even though they had cerebral palsy. And it helped me begin to see life that we all have limitations. We all have disabilities. They may not be physical like cerebral palsy, but they may be our inability to feel certain things or be aware of certain things. And so my public speaking was great because it forced me to think about who am I really? What do I really believe in? Because the more you speak from who you really are, the more you can help somebody else. And then you're speaking with emotion that's genuine. And people love that. They don't want just somebody reading out of a book.
And then just, real briefly, along with, your keynote and some work you've been doing, pretty big deal you've been doing with your foundation with COVID-19 going on right now, providing tests for the homeless in the Phoenix area. Can you talk briefly on that for us?
Well, what happens when you've aligned your life and your purpose and your values better, more things happen that make sense and the right things jump out more clearly. And so instead of thinking, gosh, COVID is a terrible time, I thought, what can we do that will make a difference during this time? And Dr. Nancy Gaines Dillard approached me, and we, in a very short period of time, said, let's do some COVID testing in late April when none of the country was doing much testing at all. And let's focus on the homeless at St. Vincent de Paul in downtown Phoenix, where I've been doing Champions for the Homeless. If you look up at everybody that's watching, Champions for the Homeless, Nick Lowery, you see, or look up nicklowery.org, our website. There are wonderful stories about what we do. And it just seemed to me what a powerful thing. We were on national TV on Fox News, outnumbered over time with Harris Faulkner talking about this and really challenging the rest of the country to get off their butts, stop worrying and feeling sorry for themselves about COVID and do something productive. So what you noticed was starting in mid-May, more and more testing was becoming available. I'd like to think we helped accelerate making available to COVID testing to the people that have nothing. And here's an interesting statistic. Out of the first 200 tests we did with the homeless at St. Vincent de Paul, at their Ozanam Center and their resource center, 0 people tested positive. Now, a few weeks later, 1 person did, but 0 people did. Then we did 300 veterans, and we had a total of 5 people test positive, actually 4 out of all that. So it became clear that we were helping get an insight into COVID. People outside, we've noticed in this country that get more D3, vitamin D3 or sunshine and fresh weather and getting out there. Maybe there's some reason why they're not getting COVID. But most importantly, it just helped me channel my energy into something productive and connect with great people. That's the funny thing about doing work in the community. You meet with people that love making a difference and giving and serving.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nick, I know you got to take off here in a few minutes, so I'll have Jack wrap it up with a couple more quick questions, and we'll go.
Can I ask Jack a question?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Jack, you're 11 years old. Why are you doing this? It's amazing. What made you want to do this?
It was originally Kevin's idea. I was doing one of those, like NFL mock draft sort of things.
Right.
Yeah, and then Dad posted it on Facebook, and then Kevin suggested that we did a podcast.
Now, who's Kevin?
My dad's just the executive producer. Kevin's the other host. He's just at work, so he can't make it.
Okay. Yeah, he did. Yeah, his brainchild, but he gets to do the interviews in the evenings. And since I'm working from home and he's home with school for a couple days a week, we're able to accommodate during the days. So.
Well, Jack, what I love about it is my experience with Champions for the Homeless is we've had 9, 10, and 11, and 12-year-olds volunteer. And even though it's not the same as hosting a podcast, I've given them a chance to be interviewed by the TV stations. And by the 2nd and 3rd year they're doing it, they really are pretty articulate about it. And you can see how it makes them feel more positive and more confident. And these really large football players, when we started this program called Champions for the Homeless 15 years ago, 350-pound football players would say, I had to come back. My son or my daughter made me. They'd never felt more powerful. They never felt like they could make a difference, especially inspiring adults. And so, I think what you're doing is awesome, because telling stories and asking good questions is a big part of helping us all remember what really matters in the world.
And also that preparation that Nick talked about, when it comes to getting ready for a game and getting ready for a season.
Yeah, preparation
about everything
for what is going to happen, but also knowing there'll always be something that you can't prepare for, and just having that mindset that I, Jack, or Matt, or Kevin, or Nick, I'm going to be ready for whatever. That's what a kicker has to do. Suddenly there's an interception, you've got to kick a field goal at the end of the game, and you just got to prepare as if that's going to happen. And that makes you mentally tougher. I tell kids today, and this might be a good way to end this interview, and we can do it again another time if you'd like. But I tell kids today, if you can learn when you're exhausted, when you're bored, when you're tired, to focus, that is when you're teaching your brain to go to a different level. You're creating wider, bigger neural highways or neural pathways, which you can tap into. And most kids today, because of this phone thing, they've learned to focus in short bursts, but they don't know how to focus for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. And that's where the greats like Joe Montana, who I played with, like Michael Jordan, who I was lucky enough to meet, like Marcus Allen, like Derek Thomas, who were teammates of mine, they knew how to focus when it mattered, because they were always focused, not just in the game, but in the preparation and practice. They were incredibly focused and efficient in practice. That's why they were confident, and that's why they were all-time greats.
Yeah, beautiful insight, and a great way to end this interview, because we'll be talking about that come baseball practice for Jack and the Pueblo Express. So Nick, hey, I know you have to run, but we appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to visit with us, share some of your highlights and your story and what you're doing for the community, and hopefully we can connect here sooner than later.
Hey, Matt, I got one final message for you and memory for you is Joe Montana, John Elway, September 1993, Monday Night Football. And it's this great battle, packed Arrowhead Stadium. And I was fortunate. I was on the sidelines kicking into the net, and a guy named Huey Lewis, the singer, was next to that net. He's friends with Joe Montana. And I was able to kick 5 field goals, including a couple very long ones, and scored all of our points. And we were beating the Broncos 15-0. And in the end, I think the Broncos scored with about 30 seconds left. So at the end, it was 15-7. So I got to upstage the greatest, along with Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time, who might be upstaged in the end in about 10 years by Patrick Mahomes. But I got to upstage Joe Montana and beat your wonderful Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, that was the game. We just left you guys a little too much time there, on those last second John Elway heroics we're used to. And Huey Lewis, saw him a few years ago here at the Colorado State Fair. Heck of a show. So big fans of him too.
But he was amazing, truly amazing.
So Nick, hey, appreciate you taking the time, and we'll definitely hook up here soon.
Sounds good. Thanks,
All right,
Jack.
thanks again.
Thanks,
Thank
Bob.
you.
Pro kicker joining us on the Paradox of Sports.
Thanks again, Nick Lowery, which I don't know. I don't know if he'll watch this thing. If he'll sit down and watch it, I feel bad saying it. I think kickers kind of get a bad rap. Nick's a cool dude. Did you not take that away from the interview that he's a pretty cool guy?
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy.
I was impressed, but I guess not surprised afterwards when he talked about the science that goes into the kick. When he was talking, you asked him about the 2 1/4 inches or whatever, and he said he never measured that, but he knew about that 4/1000th of a second that his foot made connection with the ball, and where he was 6'4" and it was more straight on, and then from the side, like it's crazy. It was crazy the science that he knew about kicking.
Or we could do a thing where we spend a few days up in the Springs doing a coverage of the NFL draft at the Roadhouse.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Go up for round 1,
Yeah.
set up at the rail yard, get down. You know what else that sounds like? That sounds like a cool place to have a fantasy football draft too.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
So-
we could do the regular NFL draft there at there. Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out good ideas in which we could do. We could visit the rail. We could spend a few days up in the Springs watching different.
Well, I think if you were going to go up there, we got to incorporate it with, and then like I said, once the world opened back up, which I hope it's going to eventually, we're going to go to an Air Force football game. We're going to go to I'll be honest, I don't even know what is the Colorado Springs baseball team called now.
It's Class A. They're called the Vibes.
Oh, it's because it's not the Sky Sox anymore.
One of the
correct?
worst names for a team ever. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's still baseball. We
I'm
can go
sorry
check
for
it out.
the libel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the libel calling the Vibes the worst team name for a baseball team.
Okay, 2 things before we wrap up. We'll end on the big show, but I want to go back to Mr. Nelson and your night when you were with the Bulls at the ice arena in Pueblo. Honestly, did you have fun?
Fun. Really had fun.
So we can put Jack down as an ice hockey fan now.
Officially an ice hockey fan. Let me write
Nice.
that down.
Okay, let's write it down. Let it be known.
Let me just write it in the tab bar. Jack is officially oh, I spelled it wrong. Officially a hockey fan. Search it up. I'm just searching it up.
Beautiful. Okay, last thing.
4.48 million results, but if I add quotation marks under it, I get 615,000 results.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I learned that in class today.
Tell me about the Big Show. How big of a deal is what happened with the Big Show?
Would 7 foot big deal be considered a big deal?
I guess it's, but what are you doing with it? Like, so who did he sign with now? Kind of explain it to me.
All Elite Wrestling. Basically, the league, basically the wrestling league that Chris Jericho's in, a lot of the Sting's in, a lot of the wrestling.
We've talked to somebody from AEW, right?
Colt Cabana.
Yeah, we had Cole on. Okay. So that's.
I know where he is right now. I haven't seen him in many AEWs.
Well, they getting up there in age a little bit. He might have taken a couple weeks off. You know, it's this old guys. We need a break occasionally. So
yeah, I hope that hopefully that doesn't our channel when I said that.
No, it'll make it just go whoop, 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 whoop.
Yeah, I may be wrong because I haven't watched much AEW.
No, well, I bet you do. I bet you've been keeping up very good. I bet you've been keeping good track of it. All right, so you have another pretty good interview tomorrow. It'll air in a couple weeks. You got a guy everyone will recognize, a baseball guy from Colorado. Everyone's going to know. We also have another one canned with another football guy from Colorado. So you've been busy knocking out the interviews. So
wait, who is that football guy from Colorado?
The guy you interviewed last week. I don't want to give his name. We're not going to say his name. It's a surprise.
Oh.
I
thought we had another interview.
No. This is the one you just did. So.
Oh.
Cool.
I'm forgetting so many.
It's all right. You're tired, man. It's rough being 11. It is rough being 11. So.
Very rough. Especially being a very short sixth grader. Or not exactly a short sixth grader.
You'll sprout up in between your freshman and sophomore year. It'll take off. Boys, it just takes a couple years, man. You'll sprout up. So, okay.
Is that what happened with you?
Yes, I showed up for school. Actually, I shot up a lot between my sophomore and junior year. So that's when I did most of my growing. So. Yeah, I'll send your dad a picture of me when I was a freshman, and you can look at it and laugh because it's pretty comical. So, okay, cool, good show.
Outro coming up. That's it for this week's edition of Paradox the Sports Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. They'll really support the channel. See you guys next week on the Paradox the Sports Podcast.